Our next guest over to stage right here is Andreas, the one-man show over at Frozen Gun Games. Andreas, thanks for joining us. And for those who are unfamiliar with your game, can you give us a little bit of a rundown of what Pirate Flight is on PSVR?
Well, first, thanks for having me over here and for building this fabulous, awesome stage. I was just blasted away when I saw it. And Pirate Flight is a little dream of mine because I love flying a lot. And when I got kids, I promised my wife no flying or dangerous stuff anymore. So I said, well, I have to fly in VR. I bought the PSVR, but there were no flying games out there. And after a few mobile games I did, Freeze 2, I was a bit disappointed with mobile. And I said, well, building a PlayStation 4 game, a PSVR game on my own would be a really big challenge. So I never run away from challenges. That's the reason why I have kids. And yeah, I thought if I do a project like this, it should be a dream project. And as I love flying, I wanted to build a flying game. And so I built a little airplane, I sat into it, and I flew around in the first prototype, and then I built on that, and I put dragons in to race, and I put balloons in to pop them, as demonstrated here. And as I'm no artist, I bought lots of stuff from the Unity marketplace, and I somehow just fit it together. It's a one-man project, so don't expect a AAA title. It's just fun, and it should be perfect for beginner VR gamers. So it isn't too hard, and it has lots of comfort settings.
Yeah, totally. It gave me a little bit of a nostalgia effect, reminding me of the old Diddy Kong racing on the N64.
I love that game. Thanks a lot.
I was definitely feeling the influences there, so that's very cool. As far as the 3dRudder goes, I guess, can you kind of elaborate on what the 3dRudder brings to Pirate Flight and what kind of, I guess, opportunities that brings to the PSVR user?
As everybody who tried out a PSVR or VR flying game might know, there's something like simulation sickness that's based on vaction, that is movement that is only simulated. Your eyes think you're moving, but your brain doesn't catch up, or your inner ear. And so some people can stomach it, and some really cannot stomach it. So they don't puke around all the time, but it's still, they don't feel good playing the game. So I put lots of comfort settings in, but for some people even that didn't help, because you're flying with a thumbstick and controlling your airplane, and that's not natural. I cannot walk with my thumbs down the road. I can't. Some people might. And the PSVR 3dRudder controller gave me the opportunity to control my airplane using this new controller, and it's more natural. When I want to turn to the left, I just turn with my feet, and my body is kind of used to turning left when my feet turn left.
Well, thanks so much for touching on that, because that was something that we've been talking about as we've been speaking to people about the 3dRudder usage, and just that is wondering how it affected people who might have motion sickness, because our belief is kind of that you're instinctually kind of lean and turn when you turn in real life, and so the 3dRudder kind of plays on that kind of correlation with your brain. So that's really awesome to hear that you had a similar situation there. Foot-based controls for VR just seems to make sense, especially as we look down the road of VR adoption and for immersion. I guess I'm just wondering from the creator standpoint and the developer standpoint and your experience with VR as a whole, where do you see, I guess, foot controls in the future for VR, or just, I guess, controls in general as we, continue to grow into VR?
Well, there are, I guess, two kinds of people. People who are using special controllers for special purposes, and people who aren't. And if you're used to that, if you buy a new controller, a cool flight stick and throttle and foot pedals for Flight Simulator a few years ago, you just love it. You cannot do it without it anymore. And other people are afraid of cables. There are already so many cables lying around with a PSVR. One more cable, why? Why should I do it? And it costs money, and why should I spend money? So I guess the best way to put people into it is just to let them play it at a location or by friends, because when they did it, they won't miss it anymore. They will not want to play without it. I, for example, would love to have games like Farpoint or Skyrim VR on the PSVR supporting the 3dRudder controller, because for me it's really natural to control the stuff with my feet. It took me about, let's say, 20 to 30 minutes of testing. The learning curve was not steep at all. And after that, it felt natural. And from now on, I just would love to play these games, and I really hope that the other developers will put support for the games, for the 3dRudder, into the games, because it's not much you have to do as a developer. They make it really easy for us.
Well, that was easily the best answer to that question. That was.
I don't get paid for this. I'm not.
That was. But well, we're not here to. Yeah, well, yeah, we're not biased here either. We're just talking experiences. But that is easily my favorite answer to that question. How have you found the 3dRudder as a gamer playing other games, or your game specifically? Just, I guess, if you could elaborate on kind of like your experiences as a gamer and not just the developer.
As a gamer, when I played my game, because I played it most of the time, if you're developing games, you don't sadly have too much time playing other games. Of course you should, because you have to know what other people are doing and where they are pushing the limits. But mostly you play your own game if you're a one-man show for testing. And I played it a lot in comfort mode, where you have, you can of course pitch the airplane, and you can of course yaw, that's turning on the spot. But in comfort mode, there's not much roll for the airplane, because then you really feel sick after a short while. And for that, the 3dRudder was nice to use, but it was not essential. But then the community and all these PSVR YouTubers, these hardcore gamers, told me, come on, guy, we're not all pussies or wimps, or I don't know what I'm allowed to say. And please give us please give us a hardcore mode without any blinders at all, and with full roll and full control. So I put in aerobatic mode, and this is, you can do 360s, turns, loopings, aileron rolls, whatever you want. And I, as a pro developer, I had to record a video for the PlayStation VR store. And oh boy, it was really hard for me, because my stomach, I couldn't stomach full aerobatic mode. And when I put in the 3dRudder, it got easier for me. I was able to fly a longer time. I still feel some uncomfortness. Is there a word like uncomfortness? No, I didn't feel comfortable all the time, but it worked. I was able to record the video. And so for me, I was a perfect test case. I could see on myself that 3dRudder controls helped me and worked out. And that's one of the reasons, because I love playing in VR and looking into other games, that I wish that other developers will support it. Because for me, it will be easier to get into more hardcore games and enjoy games like Skyrim without doing like the 90-degree turns and stuff like that.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, well, another great answer there, Andreas. Yeah, what we spoke before when we were speaking to a previous developer there. The nice thing about a game like Pirate Flight is we get to use the rudder as a rudder in your game. So it's definitely a perfect fit. And I am one of those gamers who definitely wants the full-on experience, all comfort settings off, all speed turned up to. And so I really appreciate your commitment to the community and making this game everything for everybody. So thank you so much for being with us, Andreas. That's all we have for you tonight. But again, thanks for joining us. And yeah, just thank you for making a game for gamers.
Thank you so much, Beck, and thank you again for this stage. I feel really honored. Bye.